In a post-apocalyptic StarCraft 2 world where only 2 Protoss survived after fighting it all out, it might just well boil down to these 2 Protoss. We have Classic and Dia coming to the forefront here now for our round of 8, and I am joined by Tasteless. I'm joined by Maynarde. Gentlemen, we have quite the PvP on our hands. A lot of people pegging Classic to go all the way.
I'm certainly one of them. I think Classic is playing some of the best games we've seen in a very long time. Specifically in this matchup, he's looking really solid. So I personally am expecting him to take this maybe 3-1.
Okay. A bold prediction to start things off. Maynarde over at the very end. Of course, a lot of people, as I say, pegging Classic, but Dia hasn't done too badly himself. He's only had to go through Showtime in the group stages. I mean, but that's no small feat. Showtime has phenomenal PvP.
Absolutely. Showtime's is one of the best, but I really feel bad about counting out Dia here because I'm going to go even bolder and say this is going to be a 3-0. I really feel like Classic is just not just a level above Dia, but like a couple above Dia, I feel like. You know, Dia is very, very, very good. But Classic has just been, actually, specifically in PvP. I mean, he's been showing that he's very, very close to unkillable. Yeah,
there's those moments where we watched him in the group stages and he beat Trap, he beat SOS.
Right.
These are names that you don't just haphazardly toss onto the ring, onto the pole at the very end of that little thing that you do. I don't know what that is.
Horseshoes?
That's the one.
There we go.
Got it. No problem. No, you're right. I think the Protoss players we're comparing him to, I do think he's playing better than them right now. And we're talking about names like you were saying, like, for instance, SOS. You know, that guy is so good. The fact that that Classic looks even better than him. Again, this is nothing against Deer here. It's just that I think that Classic's PvP, especially in a series that's as long as a best of 5, he's going to be able to prove himself pretty well.
Well, we are ready to go into it. PvP round of 8. Classic is going to go up against Dia to find out who moves on to the round of 4.
Something in the air tonight. I'm gonna have to reach for new heights. And if I have to stand alone, I'm not afraid to face the throne. The enemy is all around. The walls crumble as
Carrol comfortably sits in the semifinal match as he awaits the next player to move on to face him. Our next match is not just a mirror matchup between Protoss and Protoss, but it is also a match between 2 former GSL champions. Please welcome up on stage, it is Classic and Deer.
Down a broken path with every breath and every stride. I still need you here by my side to take me by the hand once again. I'm blinded by the light. We won't back down from a fight. No, we won't back.
And so it is set to begin a PvP here in the quarterfinals. Roddy, it's going to be a good one, I'm sure.
Yoan, these games today, in the round of 12, we already had multiple very close 3-2s, and now we just saw that ridiculous quarterfinal between Trap and Carrol, both of them playing so well, having so many good moves. And now we're looking at 2 more amazing Protoss players, Deer and Classic. I'm not sure if I'm in agreement with the analysis desk here, Todd. I honestly don't think this is going to be that one-sided. I believe in Deer to at least make this very close, if not potentially upset perhaps the tournament favorite.
I mean, it's PvP, right? Supposedly anything is possible, but Classic has looked so dominant so far in a lot of his matches that it's very hard to actually even see anybody that could put up a good fight against him. So if he were to win here, that'd be very interesting, actually, because he would go up against Carrol in the semifinals. That'd be a sick matchup in itself. But first, he has to go through a Deer that has just looked pretty good himself, I have to say. He's kind of having a resurgence at the highest of levels. Once upon a time, this guy was considered the best out there, won a GSL, then won the World Finals that followed that, because that was the format back then. And now he's playing very well once again.
Yeah, Deer in 2013 was an absolute monster, and we all thought he would be the global champion back then. He showed us a couple of great things already this tournament, though. His PvP against Showtime, I mentioned it earlier this weekend, how smoothly he transitioned out of a Phoenix battle. A Phoenix, a unit that Classic actually loves to use as well in this matchup, I thought was nothing but spectacular. That's just not something you see at PvP in this level. I'm excited, man. Hopefully we get a very close, fun series. Probably a couple Dark Shrines in the mix as well.
You think?
Yeah.
After what SOS attempted, I feel like we've seen Dark Shrine lose almost every single time. So I mean, you shouldn't be too result-oriented, but I feel like if you want to defeat Classic, you need to be very good against targets. That's the main thing, because a lot of the time that's going to be what he's going to resort to. But then again, it's a best of 5. We're deep in the tournament. He's very capable of mixing in a lot of different builds and kind of play to his image. If he does play with targets, he's extremely good with it. Deer will be very well aware of that, and I mean, even before the game begins, he's going to have to assemble a plan that can counter that properly.
I think, like, if you're 1000% sure, right? Let's say you're going up against Classic and you're just so sure that he's going to open up with a couple of Phoenixes. What you can always do is go 2 gates, Twilight, open up with Stalkers, get Blink, and then you expand. Because then your Blink is going to be so fast that you really won't take too much damage. And you could potentially hit some sort of a 3-base attack with a bunch of charge ults, maybe an Archon or 2, and a lot of Blink Stalkers as well. But we'll see. It's so hard to predict. I mean, obviously, these two guys are also trying to predict what their opponent is going to do. So I think the most important thing here, Todd, is to be versatile, right? To be able to switch it up and play more than just one style in this matchup.
The thing is, Classic has looked so solid. He's barely showed any cracks in his armor, if you will. Not many weaknesses. So Deer has had a while to think about this matchup, kind of brainstorm how to play against Classic, probably study some VODs on his own time, and we'll see what plan exactly he has come up with here to try and defeat the Titan, the #1 ranked player in Team Liquid's power rank.
Yeah, I mean,
perhaps bound to win it already.
So far, that prediction definitely didn't look bad. He was one of the 4 group winners we had here, and he did it in a very convincing manner. Went 5-0 in best of 3s, went 10-1 in maps. Obviously, a ridiculous performance yesterday by Classic. But it doesn't count anymore today, Todd. This is a big series against, still, in my opinion, one of the biggest Protoss players of all time as well. Classic has perhaps been a lot more successful over the last few years, but you can't count out Deer, especially not when he's really feeling it again.
Yeah. Deer historically has had some success against Classic. I think he was 5-4, we just saw here in the ticker. Very useful ticker, actually.
Yeah.
Some good information.
Wax Angel's been on point, all tournament long.
We found some good use for him.
Some memes and a lot of facts. I think that's a perfect balance of what you want to have in the ticker.
I would have said it the other way around, but definitely some good infos here.
See a couple of the players that Trap has, or excuse me, that Classic has defeated. Defeated Trap, Elaze, Hero Marine, SOS, and Ryong, and he did all of that while only losing a single map. I think it was pretty obvious that Deer Todd was ready for battle. Classic was just making sure everything was 100% ready. But you know, the universal sign, when you roll up your sleeves, you're ready to party, Todd. He's ready to make some probes. He's ready to make some Stargates, perhaps. Let's make this an awesome best of 5. We've got 2 more quarterfinals coming your way. What to think about the next fixture, Todd? It's a rematch between the world champ of last year going up against the global champ. TY versus Rogue in the quarterfinals. Are you kidding me?
This whole tournament has been like a dream, you know, like we couldn't have scripted better. But here we are. Map #1 here of this mirror matchup is about to get underway, guys. It's gonna be Deer versus Classic in a Protoss versus Protoss for the ages for a spot in the semi-finals. Starting in the south side, playing as the blue Protoss, it is Deer.
And on the left top side of Catalyst, which is going to be our first map for this awesome best of 5, we're looking at the main base of perhaps the favorite to take it all. Make some noise for Classic. I've been loving the cheerfuls this weekend, Todd. Yeah. They've been good, they've been supportive, they've been funny. What more would you like?
I like the ones with your face on it, actually.
Yeah, the great ones.
Those are always the best ones. So in case you guys don't necessarily play Protoss or haven't kept up all that much with PvP, Protoss versus Protoss in Starcraft 2 Legacy of the Void, you're always going to be seeing Wolof at top of ramps not to let your opponent's potential adepts getting in. That's very, very safe. If you don't do that, you're going to lose a lot of probes a lot of the time, unless you know the Rotti build, but only Rotti knows it. And then from there, usually you see a Stalker and a Sentry being made first. Is kind of like the trends. And from there, a Nexus, and usually then some sort of tech, like a Stargate or a Twilight. It's still possible to do big gateway aggressions, but very risky because shield batteries are very good at defending a lot of those. It would have to be very crisp and kind of surprise the opponent for any of these to work.
This is one of these maps, though, where I wouldn't be too shocked if we see something different than the Stalker Sentry. I think it's good, but Double Stalker has a lot of potential as well. This is a good map to potentially go 2-gate expand, but also proxy a pylon and maybe apply some 3-gate pressure, or just open up with 3 gateways, or even open up with 2 adepts, because it doesn't take a lot of shades to make your way to the other side of the map. But your point stands, Todd. You don't want to let 2 adepts early on into your main base, because if that happens, you're going to lose a lot of units immediately. Both players opening up with Stalkers though, so there is a chance we're going to see a little Stalker skirmish. And of course, let's see if these expands that they will pretend to throw down are actually expands they throw down.
Classic has looked impenetrable defensively, so I wonder if that pushes Deer more towards playing defensive himself, or if it just tries to kind of break him with more aggression than some of his previous opponents, or more crisp timings. Classic actually going for an early robo there. This is not something we see very often. Usually it's either going to be a Stargate or a Twilight, so I guess the Robo is going to make him safe against the Twilight for the most part. Against DTs it would be very good. Against a Stargate and Phoenixes it might not be as good, but that's not what he's facing. So I feel like getting a little bit of an edge, you know, like it's not the end of the world, right, for Deer to be going for this, but I like Classic's opener a bit better.
Yeah, on paper this makes a lot of sense. I mean, Deer opens up with a Twilight. Let's see if he Chrono boosts out Blink immediately. He does fire up Blink. And this is funny, right? It's kind of what I mentioned. If you're 1000% sure your opponent plays Stargate, this is a really good build. But guess what? Classic is not that predictable. He's not doing the Stargate that we've mentioned. So on paper, this is a really good build for the Robo player, because obviously Immortals are absolutely fantastic against Blink Stalkers. But Deer can always just, you know, use them for map control, not commit too much, go up to 3 bases and get charged behind this and turn it into a normal game.
This is the sickest mind game here out of Classic that we're seeing, you know, like we even theorized before the game against somebody that goes for Stargate a lot. What's the best thing to do? Well, you said it, you know, going for Blink could be one of the good things. But for Classic to open like this, it's just, it's quite risky. But you might get rewarded big time if Deer were to take some bad fights against, you know, this Immortal that was going to be out early. But we do see a Prism, so I guess he might want to drop that.
He might actually just go for a straight-up attack, right? Even that could be possible. He might actually just try to run across the map a little bit. He's got a very early Immortal. Immortals are fantastic against Stalkers, but Stalkers are a lot more mobile. He can also just use the Prism to potentially drop 2 Adepts in the main base and arrest a little bit. But for Deer, it's really important that he meets this army in the middle of the map, that he threatens to counterattack. If you just sit back with your Stalkers and you have to fight Sentries and Immortals, you don't want to do that. This could actually be quite bad for Deer very early on, because Classic can obviously reinforce his push with the War Prism as well.
Yeah, Deer without a shield battery on his side of the map. I don't believe he's seen this move out in any way. How could he get ready for this? He's just massing Stalkers. I mean, the Sentries are going to offer some Guardian Shield here for Classic, and in a second, Deer's about to find out that he's going to be under assault from a very strong army. He sees it. He's got Blink. He's going to start to blink back. Very well done. Guardian Shield is used. The War Prisms is saving everything so far here from Classic. Such nice micro.
The micro of Classic is already ridiculous. A lot of damage on these Stalkers. You can see Deer Chrono boosting out his Immortal as well. But like you mentioned, Yoan, not a single shield battery here.
He's going to pull probes. He has to pull probes there. Target on the Immortal. Maybe take out some of the Sentries that have the Guardian Shield. He goes for the Immortal first. That Sentry doing so much in the Prism. Still saving units. A lot of Stalkers of Deer are dying so fast. The Immortal does go down.
He did finally get the Immortal, but Deer is already losing 9 probes, and Classic is going to knock down these rocks. Deer doesn't have high ground vision there, Todd. He does have an Observer, I believe, somewhere. He can always blink into his own main base, but that means that he's going to have a very tough time getting down the ramp, unless you blink down the ramp, but then you can't micro your units anymore.
Oh, this is so sick from Classic. In the meantime, he's already 10 walkers ahead. He's going to lock Deer outside of his natural expansion. It's almost as if he's playing another game than Starcraft here. Classic sees all the angle, and he's got Deer stuck in his own main base.
The Immortal is helping out though from the high ground, so that is very useful. Dearest Nexus is taking a lot of damage, it's still alive, but even if Classic backs off here, Todd, this worked out in a great way. He's ahead by 12 workers. The only advantage that Deer has is that he has Blink.
Yeah, but it's not like he can overextend and blink forward. I think he'd get punished for it if he did. Now Deer going for a Prism. I think he's going to want to get aggressive himself. I'm surprised he hasn't started something like a Dark Shrine, looking to try and blink back here and shred against some of these units, but there is so much damage. Classic with a nice micro targets one of those low HP Stalkers, which will go down, and Deer, he's behind in every single numbers here. Rotterdam.
I don't know what he say, Yoan. Classic is indeed playing unreal. Even how he did that in the middle of the map, he backs off behind the side blocker, uses the War Prism to get vision, waits until Deer is close, and then starts firing at these units. And even if he doesn't have Blink, who cares? Who needs Blink if you have a War Prism?
He saw it with the probe and then pull back. He's setting up a trap.
No.
Oh my god.
This is bad. He's going to end up losing a couple of Stalkers. Again, a disastrous game so far for Deer. Force fields go down. That's -3 Stalkers just for a single War Prism and a probe. Well, what a way to start this best of 5 if your name is Classic, Todd.
This is not even a fair Starcraft right now. This is like predict the future and somehow get every step ahead of your opponent. Classic is just playing some of the best Starcraft I've ever seen. This is insanity.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So
Deer is desperate. He's getting glaives. He's adding on a lot of gateways. Like, what is he supposed to do from there? Classic just perfectly anticipated the build, went for a beautiful attack, got ahead. Deer, he's not out of it just yet. Obviously, he's behind in walkers. He's going to try and regroup. By getting a lot of adepts, sometimes you can catch somebody off guard. You can shade from one base to another. I mean, we've all seen adepts shade into a middle line and take out the entirety of it instantaneously.
Even in a straight-up fight, adepts can really be useful, and I think that's what Deer is banking on, Todd. He's banking on Classic not being ready for it, perhaps playing too greedy, too economically, and then just shade on top of the army, shade on top of the Immortals, because no matter how great Immortals are not super effective against adepts. Will they win the straight-up fight? Of course they will, they're Immortals. But if you can mass adepts, you can't really mass Immortals, so Deer is putting himself in a position here where he's ultra all-in, and he's going to try to catch Classic off guard. Classic, all he needs is technically a couple of shield batteries and a few more units, but he's not making units right now. He's also getting charged, which is not going to be super useful against these adepts.
Yeah.
It's now or never for Deer, but you know, Todd, maybe, just maybe, Deer can actually pull off a comeback here, because Classic doesn't know this is happening. He is getting Archons though. Archons are massive against adepts.
Yeah, he's getting only one so far, needs to morph a second one. There is quite a few force fields otherwise that could put him in trouble. If he was to zone this army out on the right side, those Deer realize, yeah, there's no Archon on the right side. He's just gonna zone that army out and fight the rest. Classic, it's not like he can recall or anything, so he's trying to come in from behind, but more force fields will lock some of the army away. The War Prism trying to pick up as much as it can. Guardian Shield protecting a lot of these units. Probes are gonna start dying left and right. Deer actually catching up on the walker count, but the third Nexus is still on the way.
These two Immortals are still quite healthy for Deer. One of them is actually going down, but two Immortals at once going down for Classic. Now Classic is the one who lost 12 workers. Deer still microing his heart out with his last few units. He's got two Immortals left. He is saving them still, Todd, while going for another warp in. Finally, one of these Immortals goes down. Can these adepts get more economic damage done? This Warp Prism war is unreal. What a PvP.
Yeah, Deer still trying to salvage that situation here. The Immortals being picked up left and right, but Deer's Immortals do die eventually, and Classic's one survives. He's now got the third Nexus. All he has to do is kind of replenish his probe count a little bit better, and he's going to be in a good spot. Deer really taking it back to Classic here on his side of the map. Ooh. He will start a robot. These games just are ridiculous the entire day. Classic, it felt like this game, he lived in the future. He was every step ahead, but he hadn't anticipated that counterattack properly. And he almost lost the game right there and there, and his micro saved him.
I love everything that Deer is doing though, because trying to play a normal game now, trying to do the same thing as Classic is not gonna work anymore. Classic has an extra base. Classic already has +1. He started off +2. So what happens if you do the exact same thing as your opponent? You're just going to lose. He's going to have too much, and his units are going to be better than your units. So instead, he's going to try to make a comeback happen with Disruptus, which I think makes perfect sense. He's already got Blink, and he needs to do something different. Just like I think the Adept attack, even though he didn't win the game with it, made a lot of sense, because he was in a very rough spot.
He already has Blink and Glaives, so he can kill Zealots very fast. If you kill Zealots, what's left? The ranged units. What do Disruptors kill very well? The ranged units. So
And look at
this
the
could be
worker
very
count.
smart from Deer. Like, he has to make something special happen. Well, look at the army count, 53 to 19. If Classic was to move across the map here, things could get very scary, and I think
he will.
Yeah, considering how good he is, Classic will never fall asleep from this kind of lead when ahead, get more ahead. Well,
the only thing that's a little bit
can also finish off your opponent, Roddy.
The only thing that's a little bit deceiving about that massive army of Classic is that it is very Zealot heavy. Deer has the tools technically to deal with Zealots, but does he have the numbers though? That is the big question. He's going to need some absolutely magnificent disruptor hits. Classic scouted everything. He knows exactly what is happening on the other side of the map, and this time Classic is going to be the one that's going to try to end this game.
And he's going for his target on his side of the map. I think that might be to try and shut down this Prism here. That's going to be very annoying potentially, but Classic going to be on the offensive in a second. Going to get a snipe on that third base. Deer tries to defend. That's because he wants to use the disruptors, fall back, and then use them again. But Classic is not going to give him any time to do that. He jumps on top of this army.
A couple of these disruptor hits have been quite decent, but there's just nothing else on the ground at this moment for Deer. Even though he was ahead economically, he's going to be forced to pull the probes, losing a lot of them to these Archons. And how is Deer supposed to take care of all these Archons and all these reinforcements from Classic as well, who's even floating a little bit of money, and he's still microing his units with that War Prism.
That War Prism has saved so many units this game. Classic takes down the second Nexus. Deer still trying to fight around this ramp. He saved a lot of those disruptors, still looking to try and land some of these shots, but he has so few Stalkers here to try and properly deal with this. In the meantime, Classic is remaking an Immortal. He's ahead on Walkers. He's secured his side of the map. He starts a Phoenix to shut down this Prism. He knows that if he does that, he's going to be in a fantastic spot to just kind of saturate his bases.
Yep, has a couple of defensive weapons as well. They're trying to do a little bit of economic damage in return, but he knows he's in a tough spot. That +2 is really going to help out in the long run for Classic. I actually think for Classic it would make some sense to get Blink now. I really don't think that would be bad, but at the same time he can also just keep making Phoenixes against these disruptors.
And Immortals and Chargelots and Archons. This is the easier army to manage as well. All you have to do is pick up the Disruptors, attack move with the rest. Deer forced to recall here to make sure he saves his Prism. I like that. You know,
yeah.
We're still at a time where players forget about that and just kind of lose their Prism out on the map. No, not Deer. He's just that good.
This has been a really fun game, but it does seem like Classic is running away with it at this point. Ahead in workers, way ahead in army, and ahead in upgrades. I mean, those are the three key things to be ahead in a game of StarCraft 2. The only thing that could be scary are these disruptors, but the Phoenixes are normally a very good answer against disruptors.
Yeah, and Deer still trying to make something happen here with this attack. He's committing a lot to it. He's going to have to do something with this. He actually tries to escape with the Disruptors. They get caught off guard here by a lot of Chargelots and Archons. As much as Deer is in Classic's third base, killing a lot of probes right now. He's losing his expensive units. And I think Classic might just attack behind this.
Yeah, he's going to... I think he's sort of trying to get the Nexus there with his Stalkers, but they are losing the Prism. Knows that he can't really stick around too much longer. Now more Zealots are going to come in as well. This Prism cannot be recalled. It will get picked off. And all that Classic needs to do is try to coordinate these Stalkers and maybe flank them with the Phoenix. But perhaps he feels like he doesn't have to. But Classic is low on workers though, Todd. That's the one thing that's kind of scary.
Yeah, but he's got Phoenix, Archons, and Immortals. I feel like if he headed across the map, right now he might be able to do it. He's just kind of worried about that counter-attack, but I feel like he's starting to build up to a crazy army that's going to be able to kind of handle both. Attack across the map and defend at the same time. He's trying to corner the Stalkers here.
Recall.
He's got some hot pickups from those Phoenixes.
Deer can always recall.
Recall is not back yet.
Oh no, it's still on cooldown. He's going to try to go for the Nexus. Deer knows that he needs time, but I don't think Classic is going to turn around, Todd. I think you're spot on. I think that all that Classic needs to do is just run across the map and fight with those 2 Immortals, those 5 Archons. This counterattack is already successful, but what is Deer supposed to do against all the Blink Stalkers? Or what is he supposed to do against this massive army of Classic with just Blink Stalkers? Dark Shrine, I mean, when we try to turn it into a base trade though, Dark Shrine is obviously the best comeback tool.
Actually, Deer is barely mining gas. He mined out the one in his main. He's barely trying to retake the natural here. Classic comes back with a lot of units, gets a huge flank on a lot of these Stalkers. That Immortal going to town on them. And Deer, he's lost pretty much everything and the game. Classic with the 1-0 lead. And a fantastic game, back and forth.
That was awesome, Yoan. Who says there's no micro in PvP? Who says it's just a bunch of units moving into each other? Fantastic micro with Prisms, obviously good army movement with the sentries early on as well. Love the strategy of Classic. It really felt that Classic expected Deer to open up with the build that he did. And this was Classic's plan all along. Really good execution. I must say that Deer did a phenomenal job in hanging in there and almost even turning this game around with that massive adapt attack, because that got really close.
Every non-Protoss player says that. That's who says Protoss has no micro. But as they bear witness here to this matchup, they will realize that there is plenty of micro from these players. That was very intensive. Those War Prism pickups actually were insane from both guys. Really doing the maximum that they could with that for the longest time. And if that was game one, I don't even want to imagine what the whole series is going to be like.
Yeah, that was great, literally.
Classic. He set up the pace so well for the rest of the series as well, because now there's that whole mind game of how does he think I'm going to open? Like we always see one player sometimes taking a little bit more risk. Now that was Classic with that Robo, but it paid off.
It paid off in a great way.
If you had been against a Stargate, that would have been so bad to open like this.
Yeah, it would be very rough, because then it's inevitable that you're going to lose quite a few units. If you guys wonder why is Stargate bad against Robo or against the Stargate?
Let me make it simple. Everything the Robo makes is bad against everything that the Stargate makes.
Yep. The only thing that can help is if you get a couple of observers around your bases, then at least you can spot either Oracles or Phoenixes flying in. But in general, it just takes a long time before you can actually catch those units from the Stargate, because obviously Stargate units are very fast, and basic gateway units without any upgrades are not very fast. Just a great game, great mind games, great execution on both sides. I'm still really impressed with Deertot. Even if he lost that game, he was in a horrible position early on, managed to somehow survive, and then even managed to make it quite close with his Adept attack. And even after that, going for the Disruptors, it was obviously a desperation move, but it was the only way to still turn it into a playable game. So I just think everything he did made sense.
And Classic, just as you would expect, scouted that and went for the right attack. And then the appropriate defense as well. If Classic had stopped scouting just for a little bit, hadn't punished that transition, he might actually very well lose, because then Deer replenishes like enough army to properly fight against that army of Classic. If he goes up to say like 6 to 8 Disruptors, this becomes a different game entirely.
Yeah, especially if you're only working with a single Stargate. I think that was the definition of a very high-level PvP. You know, sometimes we stand there and we can criticize a little bit. We could be like, I didn't really like that choice, or that didn't make sense. I think almost everything that these two did right off the get-go made perfect sense. And of course, Deer was in a rough spot, but that's just because the build he chose, which I still thought made perfect sense, because everybody's talking about Classic making Stargates all the time. So I thought that was a really sick PvP, and that gets me very excited for game number 2, as we are getting ready to hop into, wow, Eastwatch. Not a super common map in PvP, obviously a massive map, the largest one in the pool, as we are looking at the main base of the man who's down 0-1, but played great. Give it up for Deer.
His opponent in the north, he also plays Protoss. He looked fantastic the whole way throughout this tournament. It is Classic.
Classic, of course, came into this tournament after qualifying through perhaps the toughest qualifier in the world. Already defeated multiple world-class players in a row to even get here. I mean, Todd, you casted the Korean qualifiers. Those are almost as hard as the actual tournament, aren't they?
Yeah, they were extremely difficult. I believe he fell on his first try, and he lost like in the last 2 matches. That was very sad for him, but he came back much stronger in the second one. Took names left and right, beat some very strong players, and made it all the way here in this tournament. And now he's considered one of the favorites because of the way he's been playing as of late.
Now, Eastwatch being such a large map obviously changes things quite a bit in this matchup. Could we see a Dark Shrine? I actually think that's kind of possible on this map. Could we see Stargates? I think that's very likely. I think one of them is going for a Dark Shrine, Todd. I think one of them is going for a Stargate. Or maybe we could get one of these Phoenix Wars, man.
Yes.
We haven't had enough of them.
You very well know this is meant to happen. Phoenix versus Phoenix at some points between these two. That'd be the dream. Accept the challenge.
You gotta be careful when you say that though, Todd, because you say that's the dream, and then one guy wins the fight with 6 Phoenix against 5, and the other guy GG's, and everyone's like, that was your dream, Todd? After the amazing Starcraft
Hey, we found out who was better in Phoenix versus Phoenix, okay?
All right.
That would be good enough for me. But yeah, these guys play so well, to be honest, that it's always gonna be back and forth. even in a game where Classic got so far ahead the previous time, Deer was so good in just kind of bringing it back and taking all the appropriate moves.
I have the feeling since he's going Sentry Thought that he's going Stargate, because Classic likes to go Stargate after he makes a Sentry, because then he can scout with his hallucinated Phoenix to make sure he doesn't lose his real Phoenix in case his opponent plays a very greedy version of Phoenix versus Phoenix. And a lot of people often say like, oh, Stargate versus Stargate is so random. I feel the way that Classic does it makes it a lot less random, because he scouts with the Sentry.
Ooh, that's so sick. Classic actually spots that Stargate. He starts a pylon to make sure there is no cancel for a very long time. This is so cool. What we're seeing from Classic, he forced one of the Stalkers to even go for the probes, so that was even less damage that was applied onto that pylon. I do believe he should cancel that because he's going to be very low HP, even if it finished. But he sees that for a long time the Stargate wouldn't be cancelled, which makes it hard to cancel it then after and then go into something else.
Well, it's going to be Stargate versus Twilight in the end. So Classic making another Sentry after his first Sentry, while Deer is going to apply some pressure. And he's actually really good with this, guys. These Adepts are very good against Sentries. Sentries are light armored units, and they obviously don't deal that much damage. It's important that Classic gets a shield battery, which obviously he's getting because he's Classic and he does almost everything right.
This is going to finish on time, though, if these Adepts shade on top of that, or even into the main base, because there are a lot of probes long distance mining. Does he have one in position? Starts a gateway. Classic is just
fighting
that proof. That's what it is.
Fighting on top of a shield battery is a very risky move here by Deer. Like, I understand that he tried to go for it there. He's gonna get a couple of probes, so this is not bad, Todd, because he saved his Stalkers, and I think he gets 3 probes here in total. Even gets the 4th one on the north side there. Pretty well done.
They went to the edge of the cliff and shot before falling down, being pushed down. That was sick.
I think that Classic might be a tiny bit worried at this point. Obviously losing 4 probes stinks. Deer scouts the main base. He saw the Twilight. He didn't see anything else. He obviously gets a Robo at home, because you always have to respect a potential Dark Shrine. Now, is a Dark Shrine likely after all these Sentries and Stalkers? Not super likely.
Yeah, but if there is one on the map and you don't get an Observer, you're going to lose a lot of ladder points, Roddy.
Yep.
And potentially a very important game here, and the Intel Extreme Masters as well. And we don't want that to happen.
I don't think you have to talk to any Protoss player about losing a bunch of ladder points against ETs. It's literally one of these things that we've all been there.
Yeah.
And eventually you learn the hard way. Even when you think you're so good at analyzing what your opponent can or cannot have, a Dark Shrine can always be sneaked in. These Phoenixes are going to sweep in. One Phoenix actually goes down. That's a little bit sloppy. Of course, good Stalker positioning by Classic. But Phoenixes being as fast as they are in this phase in the game, you're supposed to keep them alive a little bit longer.
Yeah, Deer is going to be falls back here for a little bit. Starts the
this probe is
Molotov production. You can't see me. If I don't move, you can't see. I look like a gold mineral.
Yeah, he almost had the same color. You should have just sat next to it, or maybe start mining, you know. Pretend everything is normal.
I like that there is a forge on the way, by the way, for Deer, looking to try and go for some upgrades. Whenever there is at least one expansion involved, you're going to want to start those upgrades. They can really start adding up and do very well for you. Twilight Castle now starting for him as well. And Deer's ahead in Walkers. He's putting in some good work here with those Adepts and Phoenixes, 43 to 38 right now.
It's funny that he hallucinated a couple of Stalkers. He wanted to make sure the Phoenixes wouldn't fly in and lift those sentries, because obviously just 3 Stalkers don't have that much DPS. So Classic, it was very obvious.
Wait, 2 Twilight Councils by Deer?
Neil Bill. No, probably an accident. If they finish up, there's a chance he... No. I think he just wants to get one. I think he should still cancel one. It doesn't really make sense, because even charge doesn't take very long to upgrade.
One of them finished, the other one's still in progress.
Yeah, he cancelled it.
You should have just left it and made glaives plus charge. It's like, you know, when you trip and then you just drop down and do push-ups, you pretend that meant to happen.
And then you roll over the street. One-handed push-ups, and you're like, oh, it's part of the plan. Classic is getting 6 more gates. He's going to fire up charge. This is obviously obvious because he's taking the gold base. He's going to get a lot of minerals. So you are spending those minerals. Todd, Classic blinked into the main base of Deer with a lot of Stalkers. Now these Stalkers are going to be in a little bit of a rough position. Forward blink there, gets 1 unit, and he's going to recall out without really losing all that much.
Yeah, this is so cool. Without the new recall, you wouldn't be able to do that. The sentries now going to be the units that are exposed, but Deer loses a Phoenix, and I think he's just going to be getting right out of there. Remember, Classic is the guy that plays target usually, so that means that now that he's the one playing with the blink and facing this target, he's going to know very well how to play against it. He knows both ends of that fight.
The scary thing for Deer is to go up to 3 bases too fast, because he knows that his opponent has Blink and his opponent is probably getting charged behind it. Once you go up to 3 bases, you potentially expose yourself to a mass gateway attack.
That base is gone.
Yeah, and the ground army is always going to be a little bit stronger for you if you're the non-Stargate player, because you haven't been investing in those Phoenixes.
Here's the situation here. Classic's got a lot of Blink Stalkers, he's got all the mobility in the world. He has the 3rd base on the gold, even before Deer starts his. All Classic has to do is drop down maybe 4 or 5 more gateways, get a prism, go across the map, and swarm Deer. And there is almost no way Deer's going to be able to get enough units to defend, I think, if he does that.
Yeah, you got to respect the Archons, though. Archons are very powerful against Zealots. One thing Deer absolutely has going for himself is that he's got upgrades. He already has +1, and +2 is on the way. This is a scenario we've seen multiple times throughout this Intel Extreme Masters. And Archons with +2 against Zealotot. Sometimes I don't care how many Zealots you have. If the Archons are well protected, you've got a Guardian Shield as well to protect yourself against the Stalkers. They can do wonders, even against armies that are much, much bigger, you know, when it comes to inferior units.
And Classic actually going for 1 more gate and a robo. I'm surprised there hasn't been a bigger explosion de gates, as you call it.
L'explosion de gate.
L'explosion de gate.
Fromage.
Gonna be adding some Archons here to his army. Yeah, where are the extra gates actually, Classic?
I love how the French way of describing a gateway explosion has now become my thing, Todd. I'm pretty sure that's still your
You're
thing.
the one who was bringing it up.
Yeah, because you always said it. Just like, look at the supply. That's none of us. That's only you, Todd. But all of us say it.
+2 closing on completion here. Damn, Classic, I'm a little bit surprised actually that he's not even going for any kind of forge at this stage.
I think he's doing what you said before. He's going to try to swarm. The Proto Swarm is real as well. If you
how
have
many
a gold
gates he's
base,
done?
not enough yet, I think, right? 9 with a gold?
Oh, actually, no, he does have 9. Okay, I thought he had less than that. Yeah, this is pretty good. Oof, that army, 152 supply. I don't need to look at their supply to know that Classic is ahead. He even could have boosted 4 of the gates. I don't think they realized what he's attacking into. Abort!
I think he can always recall. He's getting flanked as well. I think if I'm there, I recall here. There's almost no need for him
but
to
he would
stick
lose
around.
so much anyway. He's just gonna commit, I think.
So this is a crazy fight as we're taking a look at the first-person view. The upgrades, though, still in favor of Deer. But can he keep these high HP units alive? The War Prism got sniped. But Todd, those gateway units of Classic, in the end, they seem like they're actually doing it. Even though they have no upgrades, they're chasing this Protoss army back. Deer, you were going up against somebody who wasn't tacking up. He was just massing units.
If they had realized there was no upgrades for Classic on the way anytime soon, he would have just accepted that he's ahead on upgrades, behind in economy, build up a little bit his economy and then attack later. But wow, Classic with a beautiful setup coming in from behind with a lot of Zealots.
Look at the energy on the Nexus of Deer. He could potentially Chrono Boost all of his Nexus. The one in the Natural is quite a bit.
I'm not going to look at anything but the supply, Roddy. There is 67 to 31 army, and Deer will just give up. Classic goes up 2-0 here in the series.
It feels like an unfortunate, almost anti-timing there, right? For Deer. Deer playing a pretty solid game. Of course, Classic playing a great game with the mobility of his units. But it just feels that Classic was really gearing up to attack Deer, and then suddenly Deer shows up at his front door and he's like, oh, you know, I thought we were fighting a neutral venue, but if you want to fight in my backyard, you know, that's okay. I have the advantage here. A good snipe, of course, on the Prism as well. If he didn't get that Prism, Todd, it could have potentially been a little harder because the fight was getting close. There were still a couple of Immortals and Archons alive, and if Deer gets another big warp in there, those +2 units against 0-0 could have made the difference, but Classic only needs to see a War Prism once. If he's in range, he's gonna get it.
Classic just on an absolute tear here, looking borderline invincible. And I feel like Deer's playing well as well. That's the thing. It's not like Deer's playing bad. No, he's playing well. Just Classic is unbreakable. That's what it is right now.
I totally agree. I think once again, we're often critical, right? If we see things that we're not a big fan of, then we like to discuss it. We like to theory craft about things that could be done better. I think maybe losing a Phoenix here and there was a tiny bit sloppy, but I think Deer is playing really good. Classic is just playing stupid good at this point. I mean, what can you say about this man?
He's been pretty close to perfect so far in the tournaments. He went 5-0 in the group stage. He beat SOS, Strap, Ryong, Hero Marine. The only map that he lost, the only guy good enough to take a map from Classic was a laser. That's what it takes, apparently.
Probably with some Swarmos, right? Some good old Locusts. I think it was a Blackpink game, but I'm not 100% sure. Deer, has a very, very tall mountain to climb right now, being down 0-2 against perhaps the tournament favorite. The winner of this series will move on to play in the Spodek Arena tomorrow, Todd. Always a pleasure to be there, where Carrol is indeed waiting for them. It's gonna be awesome no matter who it is. But let's hop into game 3.
In the north side of the map here on Neon Violet Square, playing as the blue Protoss, it is Deer.
And on the right bottom side of this beautiful map, we're looking at the main base of the favorite to take it all. He's up 2-0. It is Classic.
Deer has been able to make it close a few times. Can he even take a map here from a Classic that just seems a little too good at this game at this point, honestly? Like, he had the third base up before Deer even started his, and then canceled Deer's. It's like, how are you supposed to beat this guy? By the way, I missed the gateway explosion that game. I kept on looking at the production tab, but he already had them. That's how fast he was.
Yeah, he got him very early because he knew he was going to get a lot of minerals anyway from the gold base. And something that all these Protoss players do, especially if they end up losing a couple of probes early on, is they don't take their additional gases too early. Classic stayed on 2 gases for a long time. That's what you want to do. If you go up to 3 or 4 gases early on, you hurt your mineral income. If you hurt your mineral income, you can't just take the gold and drop all those extra gateways and warp in a ton of zealots. You can't do all of those things. I still think, though, looking back at it, Todd, I don't think that Deer should have ever been on Classic's side of the map. He should have been at home.
Hey, Classic game 1 open with the Robo. Game 2, Twilight Council. I think we all know what time it is.
I think it's Stargate time, especially on Neon Violet. I mean, come on. And I think that Deer knows it as well. I think, Todd, we could get our Phoenix versus Phoenix wish here.
Let's see here if Classic wants to do any differently. And if Deer perhaps tries to go off the plot a little bit. 2 Stalker starting for both players, as well as the Pylon on the low ground. And here momentarily we're going to be finding out what these players want to go into.
It's Stalker though for Classic, and in the past when he goes Stargate he often goes Stalker Sentry. On the other end he obviously knows that Deer has been analyzing his games as well, so maybe he doesn't want to play the same way, but instead it's going to be once again a very fast Twilight. And let's see what Deer decides to drop, Todd. His minerals and gas are going up. He could very well be going for that Stargate once again. So Deer is a Stargate player and Classic is doing basically what Deer wanted to do against Classic in game number 1.
So it's the same matchup as we saw last game pretty much. With usually you'd go for Phoenixes from their Oracles. Don't do as well as before because now they kill probes in 3 hits. And shield batteries are very good against them as well. Dark Shrine actually starting for Classic, so I guess not quite going for the blink here in the first place that we talked about. It's very likely Deer will scout this. Well, it's funny actually because it's the same positions that SOS tried for the Dark Shrine against Classic on this very map too. He was at the bottom. Remember, pylons usually are going to be made on the left-hand side. And
it's a 4-gate as well, Todd. It's not just the Dark Shrine. He's adding 2 more gates.
Yeah.
He's got a probe, I think, somewhere near his forces. Do you know how hard it is going to be for Deer to scout? Because Deer is Phoenix. Is on the way already? Now, Deer is actually getting a...
Oh, that Stalker is trapped outside. And he cannot get far away enough that he could actually recall it. So he's going to try to keep on running with it to try and buy some time, but Classic is too smart for that. He'll just chase it with 1 single Stalker.
Now the best news for Deer is that he doesn't have an expand yet, Todd, because if Deer would have had an expand, he would have been in a lot of trouble. He's getting an Oracle defensively, which I think is super smart. A, against Dark Templars, of course, and B, it's a little more useful than a single Stalker as well. This game is getting crazy. Deer has a bigger army at this point. He's going to lose that pylon, of course. He's going to rebuild it.
Has he closed the gate back at home? Oh, he's so good with this. The pylon on the low ground gives him vision. He closes the gates before the Adepts can get in there. Now 2 DTs being warped in.
But there is only a single Oracle, though, Todd. This can actually become a little bit dicey.
But I guess it's walled off, right? On the high ground. Like, the DT cannot really exactly walk in there. Ooh, it's not right now. That could be so bad.
Yep, especially if he sends in only a single Dark Templar at first. Now another Oracle. It seems like Deer knows. I guess the Oracle spotted the Dark Shrine. He's not paying attention.
Wait,
are the
DT
DTs in? Oh my goodness.
Oh my god. And that's going to be unpowered here in a second. That second DT going straight for the middle line. Classic looking for the 3-0. Deer, it's a disaster. He needs to send the Oracle back. He's flying back across the map. He's going to have to repower that Stargate. All Classic has to do is split his Dark Templar so that don't both get revealed at once. Yeah, but even then, he's already dealt so much damage.
First Revelation does go down. He actually gets both of them in a single tag. That's kind of good news. But you could see it as well. Oh, that's a cute little warp in there. That's another Dark Templar, so at least he kills 3 Dark Templars in the end, Todd. I must say, Deer handled that really well.
I thought he might just tap out here in a second.
Does he still have detection? Oh, he has a force field. He could force field the Dark Templar out. Hey, there's a DT. No, sentry. Okay, that's a clutch.
That was almost a disaster here. Whew. He could force field the DT.
Oh.
No Revelation yet. The shield battery is like, leave him alone. I'll save him.
Losing so many pylons, not having a robo yet. And don't forget that Deer can always send in another Dark Templar after this. The Oracle's starting to take some damage. The gateways are unpowered.
And Classic is taking the gold base in the meantime. He doesn't even mean to kill Deer with this.
Does he
He'd be happy to transition if he needs to.
How does the energy look? Okay, he had one more Revelation from one of his initial Oracles, and he almost has one more Revelation. Classic is just rallying in DTs one by one.
Yeah.
But against 3 Oracles, maybe he should stop with this at this point.
Yeah, maybe grab... just get Blink.
Get a robo, maybe.
Get Blink. I think he might recall probes to his gold base. Oh my god.
That's a pretty sick force field. He gets a couple of Stalkers, but he's still going to lose a Stalker or 2 on his own high ground as well. Even when Classic gets trapped out, he still has good micro.
Yeah, let's see if that DT gets in, he gets revealed. He's going to have to pull it back immediately here. Classic is going to be forced back here, and Deer with a great defense.
I thought, what do you think these 4 Oracles eventually could do offensively?
Okay, how many probes? Oof, that's a lot. Yeah, these Oracles could do a lot. I mean, obviously there's going to be Stalkers across the map, especially if he randomly finds that.
He's flying.
Oh my god, the Oracles!
Yep.
This could be so bad for Classic here.
He doesn't have too much energy though, but Oracles don't need that much time to potentially kill. You can see that Deer wasn't even really thinking about it. He's going for the main while once again being distracted at home. Again, there is a Dark Templar here in the mix. That shield battery has been putting in overtime. The gold base is really where he should have been going for, but
it wasn't even mining here for some time. Deer
is playing
to pull
sick,
ahead with a 6 supply lead here.
Like, oh, one Dark Templar does sneak in there, but he does still have 2 Oracles at home. Does he have another Revelation? Yep, he does. What a game by Deer.
How many DTs was that? Has he lost like 7? Oh my god.
Hey, he's blocking the Dark Templar. He trapped it.
Oh, this is so sick.
For a split second there, and now Classic is going to back off.
How many Oracles is he on?
I think that's his 5th that's in production. Yeah, he's got 4 now, so 5th is on the way. Who needs a robo?
How about a forge, mate, so we can counter-attack?
Well, who needs to counter-attack if you've got 4 Oracles, right? Just send them every now and then. Keep 1 Revelation at home. What an awkward PvP. I'm loving it. So many of these PvP stuff has just been so wild and weird and different than some of the stuff we normally see.
And Deer might have had enough here. I think he might just go for the huge attack to try and finish this game off. DT here is going to be sent in and killed off, but not before killing a couple probes.
Yeah, and also he not only triggered a Revelation, he also triggered a Pulsar Beam. So the Oracles are very low on energy. It's 19 probes versus 19 probes. Army supply, Deer is a little bit ahead, but a lot of these Oracles are out of energy. Obviously, if Classic decides to run to the other side of the map, that means that he's going to lose all his probes, but it probably means he's also just going to try to kill Deer.
Classic never made a Blink, by the way, right?
No, he's got nothing.
This is crazy.
He's got gates done.
He's got a Twilight, but he's like, I'll just use DTs, and he wants to get a cancellation on that second base of Deer.
Oh my goodness. Well, 7 probes remaining. This is it. Classic is going to try to win this game right here, right now, but without Blink against sentries.
Yeah, Force Field is going to land perfectly here on the ramp. Classic is being defended. Deer looks like he might be able to open up the scoreboard for himself with a great defense throughout that entire rush with Dark Templars. Great Revelations for landed. GG gets called. And Deer finally brings it back here.
And he gives us a double fist pump, and he deserves it, Todd. That's honestly one of the sickest defenses against Dark Templars I have ever seen when you were not ready for it. He had no robo. Yes, he had an Oracle, but he didn't even have enough energy. He tagged, he tagged again. What a sick game by Deer. You could even see his expression, right? He was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah. If he hadn't landed that first Revelation on the 2 Dark Templars, I think he might as well leave the game, because that Stargate will get unpowered. He will lose. I don't know how many probes it would just be over. So for Classic to let that happen, he finally made a mistake, and he lost the game right after it.
He's human after all. Classic was relentless with his aggression, with the gateway units, perhaps a few times a little too eager going up that ramp as well. But because he never made blink, he obviously felt he was on the clock. And I don't hate the idea of just rallying in Dark Templars over and over again against a player without a robo. I thought it was smart. Both of these guys are playing incredible StarCraft. I'm loving it. Yoan is loving it. Let's see what the boys at the desk think about this PvP.
Don't worry, man, we're loving it as well. 2-1 at the moment to Classic, and we do have at the desk, we have Tasteless, we have Maynarde. We can check in with some of the finer points that may have occurred during those games. So I'm going to go to Tasteless first, and we're going to go to game number 1 on Katowice.
Yeah, if you guys want to just throw this up on screen on my laptop, this is an awesome engage. I just wanted to show tactically how good these guys are at the start here. So we see immediately these force fields go down over here, boxing in some, and really forcing out the blinks while this juggling is going on with the Warp Prism. Now, obviously, the fact that there's an Immortal here is a real threat, because Immortals just beat Stalkers. We get another Warp in coming up over here. Let me speed this up just slightly. And so, as this engage happens, watch how Deer, it blinks over here to try to take out the Immortal. Good save. But now we see an interesting situation where Deer is actually getting forced up this way.
Right.
Even though his expansion is actually down here, completely exposed. So as the fight goes on, we have an interesting moment. The Stalkers are isolated down here, but the rocks are under attack.
You can see the moment where Classic realizes he can exploit this. There's almost like click in his mind. Is like, but if I just break these, then you're not going to be able to come this way.
Because, of course, if the Stalkers can come from behind when the Nexus is being hit here, then the Warp Prism can be gunned down, and it just buys more time. So we see, again, Deer just trying to draw a little bit more attention and save time, blinking away, and that's when we see Classic actually go really hard on these rocks. So the rocks, are going to block off this area here, and now the Stalkers can't get back without using a blink, and even Classic's follow-up here is really good. So we see the blink up in this area. He's trying to then go down the ramp over here, but the force field is immediate, and Deer nearly loses the Nexus, but he actually, in this whole process, did buy enough time to get this one Immortal out that we see right over here. And even though it doesn't get all the way down the ramp because there is a force field here, it's still doing enough damage over here to the Stalkers that the base is saved. So this was just an awesome engagement. Deer manages to save the Nexus, and the game goes on. But that was a crazy dogfight.
It really was.
For an early game PvP.
Yeah, very, very back and forth, and really cool decision-making that came out from that. Thank you very much, Tasteless. Maynarde now, which game are you in? Are you in game number 3?
The game that was just on stream, that's right. So Deer hadn't won a map just yet. I was just fixing that for you guys at home. We can see that, Classic went for some DT play. It was completely unscouted by Deer. Luckily, he just managed to get an Oracle out in time. Oracles have Revelation. They can detect hidden things, but they're very, very low on juice. It's been a really brutal battle here at the wall. And Classic's doing something that's very, very YOLO here. He's taking the gold Nexus as his natural base. He's been under pressure from some Stalkers. And Deer has just been trying to hold on against this really aggressive tech-based opening from Classic. I mean, the game just continues on for quite a while after that. You guys just saw it on stream. If you just missed it, it was, I mean, there was a probe hate crime here by Deer. He just got so much counter damage done to Classic with those Oracles, and he just kept making them, just kept doing more and more damage, being active with the Stalkers, finally breaking the contain, and there was just so many great engagements. I don't really want to waste everyone's time by fast-forwarding through this thing again, but...
Jeez, Maynarde, do you want to cast the whole game again?
I mean, I can if you really want me to, but I feel like ESL haven't, we haven't really organized how much casting...
Can you shout more during the replay?
Yeah, I mean,
if you do that, maybe it'll speed up.
I could, yeah. I mean, maximum replay time is 8 times, but I feel like if I yell at it, it goes to 16.
Right, I see. Further than it could ever go. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We're going to head back to game at number 4 here as the PvP continues.
Poor Maynard cannot catch a break on the desk. We love you, Maynard. You're doing a great job, mate.
Oh, I
Keep
just love it.
Keep it up.
a little bit of yelling towards the replay can't help though. I yell to my own units all the time as well. It's great. Some powerful stuff there, Yoan, at the desk. But this PvP series has been ridiculous though, guys. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying it as much as me. You know, Yoan, thinking back about that previous game makes me wonder, what if all he tried to do with the DTs, and this is of course hindsight, right, but just theory crafting. What if all he tried to do is unpower the Stargate? Because he was working on the pylon at first, but then he saw a second pylon go up and he's like, I'll go for some guaranteed probe damage. I think if he just tries to unpower the Stargate over and over again, one Oracle runs out of energy, don't you think he just wins?
Yeah, actually, that might have been the case if he tried it. I guess we'll never know.
Resume from replay. All right, Todd, as soon as we're home. Or you know what, tonight, everybody's got a gaming laptop these days, right?
I'll play you with my touchpad, Roddy. All right, here we are, game number 4. We're going to be playing on Backwater, starting in the top left-hand side of the map, playing as the Blue Protoss. It is Deer.
No matter what happens in this series, Todd, even if this is the end for him, I am so impressed with how Deer has played this tournament. I've really become a fan again. Of course, we were always fan in 2013, but Deer has been great. But so has this man been, spawning in the right bottom side of Backwater. It is Classic.
Looks extremely strong in every single game he partakes, but in the last one, the Dark Shrine lost again.
Yeah,
the Dark Shrine never wins in PvP. I told you, I warned you about this.
You did
Classic's
say it.
gonna look up the stats. And to be honest, he was getting aggressive. It feels like he plays a lot better when he's the one defending a lot of the time. Like obviously it's PvP, right? You can never really only defend. Only Rain could do that back in the days, but if Classic can be the one kind of taking small skirmishes here and there without committing to big fights, that's where he'll be in his comfort zone and do well a lot of the time, I feel like.
Yeah, I would love to see the stats actually of how many straight up Dark Shrines we've seen in PvP. Obviously not like a 3-base or a 4-base Dark Shrine, that doesn't count. But when it comes to the very first real tech building, if you're looking at like either Twilight Blink or Stargate or Robo or Dark Shrine, I would actually like to see the win record of Dark Shrine in this tournament.
Even against Maru, when SOS did it, he lost.
Yeah, didn't get a single Dark Templar. DT's thought, I think, and this is my unbiased opinion, is that we need to make the Dark Shrine a little cheaper.
50 and 50 sound good?
Yeah, 50-50 I think, like kind of like Warp Gate, you know. And then
Alright, Blizzard, if you're listening.
And then you get Blink DT.
Can we get a discount on the DTs as well? Or
no, for Blink DT you get another discount, you know, another 50-50 and
a build time of 50 seconds.
Yeah, something like that.
Sounds pretty good.
Something among those lines. Now then you'll get to cast some great Starcraft out. Both players rushing.
What I think is that we're going to be off these casts very soon if we continue with this, so let's pay attention here. 2 Stalker from both players. Usually when that third pylon has already gone down on the low ground, that's where they'll choose their tech. Classic finally going for the Stargate we've talked so much about, as Deer will be going for a Twilight Council this time around. So the roles have been reversed here from the previous game.
And if Deer goes Twilight Blink, so not Twilight Dark Shrine, as we obviously just had a little rant about how the Dark Shrine never wins. If he goes Twilight Blink Expand Thought, I think on paper, that's actually really good for Deer. That makes this an awkward game for Classic. Now the one real strength of Stargate on this map in PvP is that Pocket Expand. Normally going up to 3 bases is a little bit harder.
Can I catch him? Ooh, if Classic had moved left, he would have isolated his first Stalker, but there's 2 more where that came from here from Deer, who already starts the blink. This almost feels like this game, by the way, in the build orders, like how first map should have been.
Yes.
Kind of like what we predicted.
This is what Deer wants, but it is an Oracle opening, Todd. It's not a Phoenix opening, it is an Oracle opening, which is a little bit risky because Classic cannot be 100% sure that Deer is not playing Phoenix. And if you play Oracle against Phoenix, that's when you're going to be in a really rough spot. Good news for Classic is that it is just a Blink opening, but at the same time that can also be worrisome news, because that means A, a lot of Stalkers are going to be out, and B, there is going to be very fast access to Blink.
Yeah, with the Robo on the way, Deer covering all of his bases, doesn't want to get tricked.
No shield battery in the main, Todd. This could get a little bit ugly if the Stalkers are out of position.
I mean, here's the thing, Classic hasn't made a
Oracle all tournament.
or a Stargate in PvP yet in this series, so Deer feels confident there isn't going to be one. This is the ultimate mind game. Oracle flies in there. Probes are going to have to start running away. But Oracle, especially piloted by Classic himself, he's going to get so many snipes. 7 probes died from the very start of that game.
Well, but the other Oracles, the other Stalkers did flank it though, so the Oracle got picked off. There is another Oracle heading towards the other side of the map. And Deer finds this one as well. Blink is not done just yet though. It will be done in 10 seconds.
He's going to be chased away. Okay, this is that could have been a lot worse here for Deer. If that guy flew into that main base where there was only 1 or 2 Stalkers starting to attack it when he starts killing probes, he would have lost a whole lot more.
Well, if that Oracle arrives 5 seconds later and Blink is done and Classic loses the second Oracle as well, then it actually becomes very dicey because then Deer can just run across the map. Todd, Blink is done. He's going to blink towards the Oracle, gets a couple shots off, but doesn't just get the kill. So I think for Deer, the only thing he can do, Todd, is just ignore the pain that happened early game and try to turn this into a normal one.
Yeah, just produce probes continuously, keep on scouting. If you can go into a third base there, eventually get some upgrades going. It doesn't really matter, you know, like losing 7 probes early on. It might mean you need to play a little bit more defensively, but it's not that bad. And he's already back on 30 walkers to 33.
This is cool though. Classic is expecting Deer to be hyper aggressive. Classic was obviously worried about the Blink Stalker all in because he felt he did so much economic damage that he kind of forced Deer's hand here. It's like, if I kill 7-8 probes and you lose mining time, I know what's going to happen. You're just going to try to all-in me with your Blink Stalkers. I'll get a couple shield batteries. I'm going to drop defensive stasis wards. But instead, Deer is doing a much more mature thing, and he's just turning this into a macro game.
This is the sickest stasis ward, by the way, up the ramp. Right there, because if Deer was to blink into that, obviously he has an observer in public side, so that might not happen. But just in the case it were to happen, I'm going to explain you guys what happens. Those Stalkers get frozen, but the blink cooldown does not reset over time. So then when they come out of this, they can blink out. So all you have to do is put enough units next to them to kill them. So beautiful move by Classic, who I think was kind of hoping that Deer would try and blink up that ramp with a hallucinated Phoenix instead of an observer, in which case like you can see the stasis ward.
That would be the perfect scenario. There's a chance these stasis wards still come into play eventually, but for now the most important thing for Deer is just to play catch up, right? He wants to catch up in the workers. We can already see Classic going up to 3 bases as well. And this is what I mentioned early game. Normally if you play Stargate, it's a little bit harder, it's a little bit scarier to go up to 3 bases. On this map, it's not that scary because all you need to do is defend your natural, and if you defend your natural, you technically defend all 3 bases.
Defend the natural, win the game. That's usually what happens when you get attacked into here on this map. Charge on the way now for Deer. We'll see what Classic starts. I guess like from that position, almost every time it's going to be charged, but there's been a few wild attempts here and there with some glaives. Almost never on the 3-base situation will you see Blink coming into play here. Like you'd have to be, I don't know, Wellmu or something to try something like that.
What made you suddenly think of Wellmu? Because Sarah has been doing so well today, Yoan?
Yeah, maybe.
Why Wellmu, not Elfie?
Those rolled R's. No, I mean, he was always the Blink Stalker guy that did so well with it.
Lots of gateways going down in the main base of Classic. He's getting 6 extra gates. I love the 2 Adept War Prism play. This is something that has been popular for a long time. And you can already see Classic is really respecting this. Some people might think like, oh, well, that seems crazy. Just 2 units and he pulls all the workers away. You need to, because 2 Adepts, they can kill 7, 8, 9 probes before you actually are in position to deal with it. And not only did he do some damage there, Todd, he scouted all the gates as well.
Some Protoss players are actually silly good with these Adept drops. Showtime, one of them.
Yep. He's one of the first, one of the pioneers, I almost feel.
Those guys that do this, they do it so well. It feels like no matter what game they play, they would try and go back to that. It's like Showtime's playing some Overwatch. He's like, where's the War Prism hero?
There's only 2 Stalkers and 2 Oracles with a lot of energy are going to try to run Rampage to the main base.
He always comes in from an angle where Deer's not ready somehow. Even earlier in the natural expansion. Deer knows the Oracles are on the map, but somehow Classic just kind of jumps in at random times where Deer's not ready.
Yeah, Deer has 60 workers though, so losing 7 probes in this phase in the game, does it hurt? Of course it hurts. He would rather not lose 7 workers, but it's not as big of a deal as losing the 7 probes early on when he only had 24 workers to begin with. There's obviously 7 of 24, Todd. It's a pretty big percentage.
56 army to 36 though. I wonder if Classic is going to be able to realize here what army lead he has. He's actually moving out right now, probably to try and get a cancellation on that 4th base of Deer, he's trying to take that earlier than Classic.
I like the idea of the Warp Prism to buy time once again. The moment you don't see any units show up here, that's the moment where you know your opponent is most likely attacking you. Deer is trying to get a lot of Archons. Once again, these pesky Oracles show up.
How is there nothing?
Because he's getting ready for that big attack tot. And he feels like he needs all his units.
Wow.
5 Archons, obviously that's going to be really good against the Zealots. This is going to be a close one. I mean, Classic's army is bigger at this point, but maybe Defender's advantage can make the difference for Deer.
He's just got +2 and there is a window during which Deer is not going to have it. The Oracle's joining the fight as well here to help and boost that damage. Stasis Ward being used behind the army of Classic. He takes the full engagements. There is more Archons right now for Deer, but some more are gonna rejoin the fight here from Classic. Sacks the Oracles.
Couple Zealots coming in now as well. Can the Archons of Classic stand strong and survive long enough? High Templars are coming in from the high ground. Those High Templars need to be an Archon tot. Can Deer still make this miraculous hold possible, or does Classic simply have too much? With 4 Immortals and the Warp Prism still around, it seems an unlikely hold here for Deer. Even though he played a great series, it seems that Classic at this point is just playing a different game than Starcraft.
4 Immortals against 1. It seems like it was just meant to be for Classic, who steamrolls this army of Deer, trying to stay alive, trying to regroup and take out the Warp Prism. I think he knows that there is just too much, and he's not going to be able to do that. Classic with a great timing just before Deer was going to have enough. At the exact right time, GG. Classic will move on to the semi-finals
to go up against Zero, and that's gonna happen tomorrow. That's gonna be an absolutely amazing picture in this event. 2 players that have looked unstoppable. Classic played an awesome best of 5 tot, fantastic Protoss play, but kudos to Deer as well. Deer playing much better Starcraft than we've seen him play in a very long time.
Oh, he played a fantastic series. So for him to lose the way he did, really a testament to how well Classic played today. Guys, I want to hear from Classic, but first let's just head to a quick 2 minutes break, and then we'll hear from him.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Intel Extreme Masters. We just had our second quarterfinal match of the day, and it is Classic that comes out on top. So first of all, congratulations, Classic. Not only are you going to the semifinal now, to the round of 4, you'll be playing in the Spodek Arena on that massive stage in front of so many fans. So tell us how amazing is this opportunity for you?
일단 4강 진출 축하드리고요. 진출도 진출이지만 내일은 엄청 더 큰 무대 위에서 많은 팬들 앞에서 경기하게 될 건데 그거에 대해서 얘기해 주세요.
우선 제가 카토비체 이제 오프라인 대회는 처음인데 그 영상으로 많이 봤어요. 진짜 사람이 엄청 많더라고요. 거의 그래서 제가 거기서 경기하는 게 꿈일 정도로 정말 그 무대에 서고 싶었는데 지금 이렇게 4강에 올라가서 그 무대에 서게 되어서 지금 너무 기뻐요, 진짜.
So he says, guys, this is my first time coming to Katowice for a live event like this, and I've only watched it online when other people were playing at Katowice, and it looked so amazing. There seemed to be so many fans, and the stage looked amazing, and I always dreamed of being able to play on that stage myself. So the fact that I am advancing to the semifinal, and the fact that I will be playing in the Spodek Arena, it's really just a dream come true. So I am so happy about that. Now in this series, it could have been a 3-0, but that third game turned a little bit awkward. We saw that you seem to have a lot of complicated emotions going on after the game was over, so tell us what was going through your head. 세 번째 경기에 대해서 좀 어색하게 흘러갔잖아요. 그래서 그 경기 끝나고 난 다음에 무슨 생각했는지 얘기해 주세요.
사실 경기 중에 웃음이 나올 정도로 이겼다 생각을 했는데 좀 제가 실수를 하는 바람에 져가지고 그 다음부터는 진짜 방심하지 말자. 역습 또 앞에 경기가 역습이 나왔잖아요. 그 2대0에서 3대2로. 그래가지고 저도 방심하자 말자라는 생각을 많이 했어요.
So he says, the reason I felt a lot of complicated emotions was because in that third game, I really thought I had it. I was even close to smiling a few times because I really thought, okay, I won. I'm moving forward. But then I made a few mistakes and I ended up losing. And I just thought to myself, let's focus, because I saw that in the previous match, Carrol was able to accomplish the reverse sweep, and I really did not want that to happen to me. So I tried to maintain 100% focus as much as I could, and that's why I was able to close it out in the next map. And speaking of Carrol, that's who you're going to be playing in the Spodek Arena tomorrow in the semifinal match. So what are your thoughts on him? 세라 선수를 내일 이제 4강에서 만날 건데 어떻게 생각하세요?
세라 선수가 잘한다고 생각을 했는데 이번에 보니까 제 생각보다 더 잘하더라고요. 제 생각에는 지금 현존 세계 그 최고의 저그 같은데 저도 제가 생각하기에 지금 현존 세계 최강 프로토스라고 생각을 하고 있기 때문에 내일 굉장히 걱정보다는 기대가 돼요. 되게 재미있을 것 같아요.
So he says, I always thought that Carrol was a great player, but after seeing his matches today, I think that he really exceeded even the expectations that I had. He's a phenomenal player, and I actually consider him a world-class Zerg player, but I also consider myself a world-class Protoss player. So rather than being any nerves or anything like that going up against him, I'm just really excited to play him tomorrow in that semifinal match. And there's no doubt it'll be an amazing one. So congratulations again. Best of luck tomorrow in that Spodek Arena. Kaelaris, back to you.
That's right. Classic understands that magical things happen here at the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, and he didn't want the mythical reverse sweep to happen to him in this series. So he's going to be able to play at the Spodek Arena and move on to play against Carrol. I'm joined by Tasteless and Maynarde once again. Gentlemen, what a masterclass of PvP. Some great control. Classic able to prevail in the end, Maynarde.
Yeah, I mean, Classic was my pick to go. Like, I thought it was going to be a 3-0. I said at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so impressed by Classic lately in every single tournament I see him play in. But Deer, man, he's made a fan out of me.
Right.
Like, some of those games were extremely close. The score doesn't actually dictate how close some of those games really were. And he even got a score on the board as well, which is fantastic. I'm like, I've got chills as a fan of the game thinking about Carrol versus Classic in Spodek Arena.
You thought about the 3-0, but the man on the ball, the 3-1, Prophet God, Tasty.
Nick analysis Plott.
There you go.
I was so pleased with that whole series. You're totally right though, Maynard. Deer had some awesome games,
yes,
and really
absolutely.
was going head to head. And a lot of the wins that Classics had today, and I guess I should say in the last 2 months, PvP especially, a lot of them are just so strategic. He's so outmaneuvered his opponent that they're completely outclassed. But Deer was delivering some A-class PvP back there. And look, PvP is no longer the matchup that Classic can use to get deeper in this tournament. We got to keep that in mind as well. There are other races he's going to have to play. Of course, Carrol coming up here. So this should be interesting. But I don't know, man. What an awesome series.
Yeah, and now we turn the chapter, which will be Carrol going up against Classic in that round of 4. Guys, that's a great match. Classic, a lot of people who have thought he's going to be able to go through all the way. And, of course, going up against a guy like Carrol, who yet in this year has not lost against a Protoss, but Classic is quite the Protoss.
Quite the Protoss indeed. He even said it on stage. Rarely will you see anything but humility from these Korean pro gamers, but Classic's like, Serral's pretty good, but I'm pretty good.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Very impressive stuff. I mean, looking at Classic and his potential chances, there's a very good chance he would end up in the final, Nick.
I think so, but I'm not going to call anything in that regard yet, because Serral is so phenomenal and really such a clutch path to get to where he's at. Classic seems to be at his 2.0 phase, right?
Yeah.
We've seen Classic dominate the world before, and then his time passed. So having him here now against Serral, and Serral is similar to Scarlet, is one of these non-Koreans where you have to say, okay, it might not matter whether you're in Korea, whether you're a Korean or not. It seems like we're really starting to bridge that gap between the Koreans and the non-Koreans. So Serral could very well be in the finals too.
Definitely could. Definitely could. Thank you very much, guys. We've completed our Protoss games for today, and now we have 2 more series to go. Both of them going to be TVZ to find out who moves on to the round of 4. Join us right after this break.
All eyes are on you.